Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you're new to this channel, or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support this channel, then there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they're live, and a PayPal link in the info box below the video once it's rendered. But most importantly, if you would like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the shape of the Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show. Sharing increases the live audience, of course, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now we are joined by Anthony. How are you doing?
Good. I'm looking forward to running into Nummy Num or Nummy Num, as not been on the show for a couple of days, and I know he listens. Nummy, if you're out there, join. I'd like to see what your views are on the perspective claim, because I saw you in Easter the other day, and you were playing the neutral card. But the last time we spoke, you were obviously on our side on it, but you've like relegated back to a neutral stance. That's fine, but let's talk about that. Maybe you can talk better than the Rumpers can. Maybe you can articulate yourself or behave yourself in a way that makes it for good viewing. Let's have a discussion. No chat on.
Chat?
Just had a message saying no chat on. I don't know what that means.
Either. Having a look. Let's just say hello to the chat. Hello, chat. It looks fine to me.
I'm not sure what he means.
I don't know either. Maybe have I put this new? It's a new link, isn't it? Maybe it's because I haven't put it out in Master B. There we go.
Ah, right.
That could be it.
On the stream, it says disabled. So he's on about the old show.
Okay, yeah. It's just we've had a new link out. Refresh your page.
Bruno, big hello Nathan, Anthony, and all in the chatting mates. Go to channel. Let's have a little look. Bruno, 0 subs. Highest soapbox says he'll miss hearing Rumpus squirm. Well, to be honest, I don't think anybody misses this. Rumpus will not answer the question. If you ask the question, what day is it today, and the answer is one of 7 answers, he will find a way of giving you a paragraph and a presentation about how somebody worked out the days and all that nonsense. And we just want to know what the answer to the question is. Drives me mad.
Ron Burgundy says, so you are saying the actual value returned by the calculator is incorrect? Well, no. The calculator needs to have applied a secondary function to the thing you're actually looking at. Oh, we've got trolls in already.
Yeah, he's gone.
So, you know, the calculator, you could say it's correct. As Rumpus describes, it gives you an orthographic view, like an engineering view. Well, that's not how we view the world, and he's conceded that, and so has Mick West, and so has everybody else. I don't really see the issue here. It's been conceded. Your calculator doesn't do perspective. So for every idiot who's used that calculator and hasn't performed that secondary function of reducing the angular size of anything they are targeting because it's at distance, then they've got it wrong. And they need to concede. I've made a big mistake. I said it should be this much of this island hidden. Wrong. No, afraid not, because there's an angular size reduction at distance. Hi, Adam.
Afternoon, guys. I thought I'd give you a placeholding. Still gardening, but...
Well, just before you go back to gardening, Adam, the last time we spoke, you and I we had a consensus. We had a meeting of minds. Basically, you were on the... you were agreeing that perspective was not being accounted for. I used your 2 pictures that you sent to me earlier on. I don't know if you caught that.
Yeah.
But you're right. Your position and my position was a meeting of minds. Since then, Nathan and I, both together and independently, have been speaking to other people to see what other people's views on it were. And most people agree. But there were one or two dissenters that suggested that perhaps we might have this wrong, gave their reasons for it, and then created a little bit of doubt. And Nathan and I then reconvened and regrouped and basically had it out with Chris. And we were talking to Chris about it, and he was able to demonstrate and illustrate exactly the point that I was making, that when you have a curved a spherical Earth, the mountain will, in the distance, the 1,000-foot mountain will appear to get smaller and smaller, but it also drops behind a curve. Now, what they've done is co-opted that curvature calculation, and they've co-opted the perspective and called it curve, and that isn't what happens. We know there's a little bit of layer at the horizon that is obstructed, but it seems to be the case that the ballers, any obstruction will be curvature, regardless of where it's meant to be, which is why that Simon Dan, the idiot that he is, he's arguing that the obstruction at the horizon on the Al-K Elsa Craig thing, he's arguing that is curvature of the Earth, notwithstanding the fact that it's in the wrong place if it was curvature of the Earth. And that's why he's not even worth a response. But ultimately, I know I've just responded, but it seems that everybody does tend to agree with us. But the issue is we do not see the Metabunk curve calculator in the real world in an absolute term. We see it relative, and that's perspective. It's the inverse square law. Things get small, and that's not accounted for.
She's upset again, isn't she? That lass.
Yeah.
I'd agree. I think this is the point that is a little frustrating listening to it with the ballers coming in. They're obviously their points, they're struggling, and the response they seem to have is to be trying to constantly go. They keep constantly trying to say to us that we've not considered it, and I think, as you've highlighted there's been great levels of consideration and critique of ourselves, trying to see whether or not we were missing something obvious. And probably we've been a much bigger critique of ourselves than the ballers have ever provided in there, because struggle to make a point. It's obviously confused the issue so they can try and distract from it. But I would suggest it's good to hear Chris Monk's agreed. But I mean, we've all been doing it. I mean, Ranty's been chatting in the week, looking at it, trying to think, is there a way? But it is. They're just only doing half the calculation. And now, who's torturing her?
It's a cat, isn't it? I think it's a cat screaming.
Somewhat, isn't it? Yeah. But he heard the rumpus admit it. You know, he's trying to confuse by saying you can apply the secondary function. As Nathan held him to it, that's the whole point, and the point we're making out is you and all your assertions previously have never had this secondary function in what you were talking, and all your maths is wrong.
Yeah, I agree. And it means that we have to reconsider Mackle Lighthouse at 31 miles away now, because, you know, when we did that with Chris and we modeled it originally, we were flicking between orthographic view and perspective view, and the distance between the two of them was crazy. When we had it in orthographic view, when we had it in perspective view, I was looking at it and thinking he must have done something wrong here. That's not what the difference between the two was stark. But now looking back at it, the model that he was doing at the time was bang on. The difference between the two is the exact fault that the Metabunk curve calculator isn't addressing. So ultimately, we're going to have to come back to the Mackle Lighthouse at some.
We've been joined by two new guests. We've got Jay and Arwin. How are you both doing?
Hello.
Have you just woke up, Arwin? You're late.
No, I didn't woke up.
Did you hear the beginning of the show?
Asleep.
Hey, Jay.
No, I was busy doing some other stuff. And I had
Hi, Jay.
phone
Hi,
call.
Owen.
Hello.
Well,
Yeah, I heard a little bit part about that. So what's going on?
Well, he admits that we don't see the world in an absolute way. We see it in perspective, yet the calculator doesn't account for it. But they're not going to be able to change it, you see. They're not going to be able to change the calculator, because if they change it, it's never going to match any of the observations that we do.
Ah.
Yeah, you're right. it's never going to match.
Yeah, our model is broken, but we can't do anything to fix it because it's not going to work out.
Correct.
It's very, very sad.
Can't fix it with the thing they've stolen. You know, if they've nicked perspective, they can't use perspective in the calculation because that's the very thing they've stolen to induce what you would call slant based, but it's ultimately just the point of convergence that they're calling the over the curve. It's like, no, that's just the point of convergence and you haven't accounted for it. Big fail.
And I think most people on our side of the fence realise that this is true, but I also think half of the bowlers realise it's true too. And they're the ones that are not quite convinced, which, you know, like the ones that are on the borderline, the ones that are not protagonists on the bowler side. So I'm talking about the likes of PMARS, Dawn Treader. They know that what we're saying is true, but they don't want to challenge it with the rumpus and people like that because they don't want to upset the dust cart.
You know, I'm not really an antagonist on the Glober side, but I guess maybe I'm late and I don't understand what you mean by the convergence.
The flattening factor, that as things get further from you, they seem to get flattened, and then things start to get messy at the horizon, as the sun on the screen shows right now. The sun seems to get fatter at the bottom.
Yeah, and that's certainly something that I didn't understand before I got into this about like perspective and refraction and stuff, and I've definitely learned a lot about it since. But one thing, because I was looking at that Skiba, that Rob Skiba video yesterday, and even still, it doesn't seem like the sun moving sufficiently far enough away to where it would get smaller would ever appear anything like that video that's right there, like the picture of the sun like halfway, still large in the sky.
But I think that Rob Skiba is still one of the more heavenly body physical literalists out there.
What on earth does that mean?
Well, that he's still assuming that the sun is actually a ball of fire, although he assumes it's smaller sized, and he's basically using alternative optics to prove how it is moving over the circle of the Earth and how that would work out. That's what he's been focusing on a lot.
This is one of the things where I actually agree with you on. I'm not your biggest.
Yeah, you don't have to emphasize that every time you talk.
Anthony,
I'm not emphasizing it to you. I'm emphasizing it to the audience that's watching.
Don't. Just get on with it.
Well, the thing is, what you're saying is probably true because if they can't prove the distance to the sun,
yeah,
and that's like Ball Earth 101. How did you know the distance to the sun? And Lewis kindly made himself look like an idiot by blankly looking into the sky and looking at nothing. But the point is still the same. Where is the distance from the sun coming from? But the other one that is like Ball Earth 101 is, well, how do you know the sun's a ball of like that fused helium, hydrogen, whatever mix they call it? How do you know that? Where's the proof that the sun is three-dimensional? And of course, there is no proof for it. The perception is, yeah, it must be. Well, where's the proof that it is? So if anybody can prove that the moon or the sun is actually three-dimensional, let's see the evidence that proves that it is three-dimensional.
Come on, Riley. You can see the moon, so it must be a ball of dirt. You can see it. That's proof, right?
Well, both those things that you suggested, Riley, I think that there's pretty strong evidence, I'd say proof, that both the two things, because they do that thing, the spectrometer, I think it's called. Yeah, there you go. And they used to shoot it through the prisms back in the day, like, hundreds of years ago. Now they do it in a very precise way.
You want to give you an example of why spectroscopy doesn't prove anything?
Sure.
Nathan.
Yeah, all light analysis is all based on a system where you are basically making a base assumption that because you are seeing certain spectra of light, that correlates with material. Then it will have certain spectra of light reflecting off it. And because they're observing these specific spectra of light, they automatically draw conclusions as to what matter should be there. But there's no proof that that's actually the case. It's just
Okay.
another presuppositional system
Right.
based on light analysis and assuming that it is matter.
You want an
That's how
analogy?
they
said
do a
yes.
lot of it.
You want an
I said
analogy?
yesterday, because we were like like we're comparing it to a rainbow and the effect that the rainbow has. The only difference is the sun has physical consequences. Like we receive energy from it. Obviously we receive light and heat in several ways.
Yeah, but how do you know it's
No,
coming
you
from the
don't.
sun? How do you know it's
Not
coming
true.
from the sun?
No, you
Well-
don't have any proof that the sun radiates anything.
Correct.
The only thing that you're measuring is light actually hitting matter and causing heat.
But
There
you don't
is
know that
no
it's
heat
coming from-
aura on the sun.
You
Well,
can't
also
prove that it's coming from the sun.
you can't get the like let's say you have a solar
Yeah,
panel.
you're not getting any light hitting you, so you don't get any heat because it's hitting the cloud.
Where's the evidence that the sun is the one that's creating it?
Like I said, that would be my only the true evidence would be is that when the sun's not there, you can't receive this energy anymore.
Yeah, sure.
Because
But
you're not getting hit by any light.
Yeah, but then
The
but
sun is not radiating heat. It's just there when light hits you. And the light hitting you locally causes heat as the light is absorbed by the matter. That is what causes the heat. The sun does not cause heat. You can't measure heat coming off the sun. You just can measure this sunlight hitting matter and that causing heat.
and that light itself can be captured as energy.
Yeah, because it's being absorbed locally by matter.
Right. It's just because I think let's see, I have a number here. It says like 15 to 50,000 exajoules to 50 million.
A lot. Yeah, it's good.
Well, it seems like a great consequence for something that wouldn't be there. So that's why
we're not saying it's not there. We're saying that it's not the origin of the source of the heat or the energy or the light.
okay.
It's
But
just
you
an
would
optical phenomena. It's not a specific location from which the light is originating.
Can I give
Have
you
you
a simple
seen
example? Sorry,
holographic
Anthony. Can I just give
nature
a very
proves
simple?
this?
Can I just give a
Well,
very
before
simple
we-
example?
Let me
Before we
ask you a
move on
question,
then.
Jay. Sorry, let me ask you a question, Jay, before we move on.
Sure.
If I stand on one mountain around a bay, so imagine a bay, and I'm on one side, you're on the other side.
Sure.
If I look out to the sun and I see crepuscular rays, and you're on the other side of the bay,
Yeah.
when you look at this, when you look at the same rays that I'm seeing, do you think you're going to see the same rays that I'm seeing, or do you think that you'll see something different?
Usually you see those are more due to perspective, so you will
That's
see
not
them
what I asked.
differently. Well, you
Oh,
will
right.
see them differently.
You see
You
them-
asking would I assume that?
So if I see them coming down in a particular angle and it looks like it's
Mhm.
lighting up a lighthouse in the background, for example, if
Mhm.
you looked at that lighthouse from your perspective, do you think the crepuscular rays would also be lighting up that lighthouse, or do you think they'd be doing something different?
Yeah, at one point I may have thought you'd see the same thing. But I think based on my understanding, I think they would be doing something different now.
But that doesn't jive with a 93 million mile away sun,
Why do you say that?
because if it's absolute, if the distance of the sun is absolute for both of us, then
Uh-huh.
as it's coming in through the atmosphere, if I see it lighting up from through a cloud, lighting up a lighthouse, you should also see the lighthouse being lit up by that same ray.
You would think so. But my friend, a really good friend of mine, he made these beautiful models, and that's actually how I understood crepuscular rays afterward. I really hope he doesn't get mad for me showing this, but I don't know. Yeah, he made some amazing pictures.
Cool.
Before I find those crepuscular rays,
Crepuscular rays?
I'm sorry.
He took pictures of crepuscular
No,
rays?
no. He modeled them in Blender, showing that you could get these parallel rays coming from a source, sufficiently far enough away
Okay,
that
you do
that would come
realize that
in.
crepuscular rays are not parallel.
Well, no, that would be the globe Earth model.
Well,
John.
what are you
What they
talking
are.
about?
How you doing,
My
Donald?
head.
Globe Earth
Talking
models.
about
Yeah, we
actual
hear.
observations of crepuscular rays.
Well, that's what I'm saying. This model shows that from our perspective, you would see divergent lines.
Right.
That's
Well,
impossible though if the sun's a fixed distance away.
Well, that's what I'm going to show you. He made a really good picture. It's just not coming up. Give me a second to find that. But in the
you know
meantime,
what? I can make a really cool painting of crepuscular rays that looks really like when you sometimes see them in real life. Doesn't mean that it actually has anything to do with how it works. So
well,
you
I
could
make
probably
games.
model something that makes it look kind of the same. Doesn't mean that you've just proven how it actually works.
No, you're right. But like I said, I make games, and so I use things like Blender and Unreal Engine to do this. And when you model something physical in an engine like that, and it is purely straight parallel lines, and then you view it and you're getting crepuscular rays or the divergent rays. Uh, this wouldn't be like a drawing or a picture. This is the same exact phenomena. There's nothing changed about the picture except for the camera angle.
Right.
And so,
So in that case, then, have you seen Taboo Conspiracy's most recent video?
which one was that?
Probably not.
Taboo Conspiracy's most recent video called Chasing Rainbows. He deals with crepuscular rays.
I think did somebody post that yesterday? Because I did watch a rainbow one yesterday, but I'll be happy to watch it again.
But before you get onto that point, can I just ask you a quick question, Jay? So, do you think that because you can model it in Blender and create the same effect, that therefore stands to reason that it's a physical object 93 million miles away? Or do you accept that it proves
No.
nothing?
Yeah, no, I would then suppose that it's possible in either scenario. So that wouldn't be something that you would be able to use as evidence
Against?
really
I
for
see.
either scenario.
Gotcha.
You'd have to both accept that it's possible.
I agree,
as-
and I know I completely agree with you as well. It is absolutely possible in both. So yeah, we're on the same page. Great. I didn't know if you were just going to segue into, and therefore that's proof it's 90.
No.
Yeah, fine, no worries.
No, I just wanted to make sure that it wasn't used as evidence that it's not a distant sun, because it copes with that completely.
Well,
I
it is
wanted to
absolutely.
go
So
back
I don't know if someone on the panel might be asserting that. So, Arwin or Anthony, are you actually asserting that?
Well, I'm thinking that if the light rays are coming in a straight line from a 93 million mile away sun, and then they come through our atmosphere through a hole in the clouds, and then it lights up whatever's underneath it, then if you take a different perspective from a 90-degree angle relevant to the first observer, then you should also see that same beam of light hitting that lighthouse. Is that not the position on a ball?
It's not the position in reality, but it doesn't mean you can't model the crepuscular rays.
On a ball?
Yeah, I'm sure. Well, okay. Roll out the Blender pictures or Unreal Engine or whichever you said you used for these models. But yeah, I've seen it myself. Someone else has shown me the same thing. So I'm in no doubt that what you'll now get presented with is it modelled perfectly with crepuscular rays working exactly as we see them. But, if you don't accept that, then fine,
If
great.
I'm wrong, then show me. Let's see where that goes wrong for me, because I don't see that as a strong argument for a ball if two observers seeing the same rays of light up different parts of the bay.
Okay, here's the video my buddy made, and it's not, it's a general picture. It's not going to be based off of any of the pictures you've seen. It's just meant to show you what you'd see from the Earth, based off these parallel lines. So I can skip ahead, but he's just showing you what it looks like through the clouds or whatever it is. I think that's German for this is the cloud. But yeah, so you see here, this is the parallel rays. And he's changed nothing about this picture. He's just so he's just showed that there's parallel rays coming in, and then from the surface you'd see them as these divergent rays.
Yeah, but there's a big difference. I don't think this looks anything close to how it often does look in reality, because
I agree.
I do. Well, hold on. Why
crepuscular
not?
rays don't
Why not?
shine over everything. They are usually
You're right.
local, just shining through a few clouds. very locally.
There's no atmosphere
Yeah,
being
you
modeled
can't-
in this, though,
Can I
right?
just interject there? They're not crepuscular rays. They're
agree.
lines of perspective to the sun.
I agree. I don't
Well,
think
you guys are right about what you just suggested. This is the first time, or yesterday was the first time I saw this video, and this is the best one I've seen. Whereas all the other ones that I've seen him make, he's made in real time, like in a couple of minutes, and all of them are different, and all of them show the same effect, but
could you address Adam's last statement? I'd like to see an answer to that last statement of Adam.
Yeah, as in not coming into the direction like you're staring straight at the sun. It's coming in at like maybe it's over a cloud at a distance, and you're seeing it from there. He's made all sorts of pictures.
No, Adam, would you ask the question again?
Yeah. For me, I've looked at it because I was quite interested, because my understanding is crepuscular rays are caused by a close light source, and that's the argument. And as I was just looking at the lines straight, and the scale looks a little bit wrong for the size, but for me, when you've moved from the side image to that image, it looks quite apparent that what you're seeing there is just a tunnel. It's not crepuscular rays, because the point of divergence isn't at the clouds. The point of divergence is the source. So all you're actually seeing is perspective lines to the sun in the distance there. For me, I don't think that's crepuscular.
Like I said, this picture is it would like, because trust me, we've been here where we've talked to somebody who they weren't happy with one picture, so he made another one. He made a different one. I haven't seen this one until yesterday. It does the same effect, but whereas the other ones I've seen, you won't be looking like in this one. You would be looking directly at the sun at some time, in midday. Whereas usually the other ones, the sun's lower, and it's not actually the focus of the viewer, but even still, the rays will come in over a cloud. And I don't know if he has a video of that, but I do have pictures that I could probably post up here that are in my phone. He's made quite a lot of pictures like this, so.
I'm not persuaded by the strength. You said this is the best one that you've seen, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, this is what explained crepuscular rays to me, because I read up on them, and it said the thing about the converging lines up into the vanishing point on the horizon, like a railroad or something like that. I always explain it as a railroad, and I was like, yeah, but crepuscular rays, like you always see like lines going in all directions, like forward and back and side to side. And like I said, this picture alone, it's hard to see it that way, but yeah, you do see the parallel lines coming in at all different directions over a cloud usually.
Hey Jay, you're running out of disk space, man.
Thank you. So yeah, but real quick, I know you were asking about something else before we got into this, and I was trying to address it. Let me just even get back to that.
What was that?
I forgot
you were
what.
saying something to me.
That again, I was saying what?
No, but yeah, I started searching for this bad boy, and then we ended up switching around anyways. Oh, right, okay. So the sun, we were saying the consequences of it and the energy we're getting from it, and you were saying that that's not entirely that doesn't mean that it has to be a physical object right there.
Yes, can I give you an example there? Sorry to cut you off, because I was trying to get it in at the time, which is if you sat in your lounge, right, and out your window to your left you've got the sun, and to your right, on the right hand side of you on the wall, you've got a mirror, and it fills the whole wall. And as the sun comes over your house, it goes through the window at a certain angle, and then you see the sun in your mirror. So much so that it's blinding, because you've just got exactly what the sun looks like in your mirror, blinding your face. And if you put your sunglasses on, you can have a little look at the sun in your mirror, right? So as far as you're concerned, that if that was all you saw, that mirror and nothing else, then that's the location of the sun. That's the sun. That's a physical thing, right? Well, actually, no, it's just a reflection off a mirror. But you've got no way of determining that unless.
I don't think you get sunburn off mirrors, Nathan.
I'm just making a loose comparison.
Also, you don't go and sunbathe on the beach under a big mirror, do you?
Right,
they don't sell cream in case your mirror gets too bright and hot.
My point is that until you actually go and examine it and stand up and have a look and go, oh, it's a reflection, it's coming from over there.
They don't sell mirror glasses either, do they?
Oh, Dawn, your obfuscation is rubbish.
Well, still though.
Also, Ranny didn't get his face burned off by a mirror, did he?
It's not. I'm not saying that the sun is reflecting off a mirror. Right, I'm saying that without knowing and going and having
how
a
do you
look.
know it wasn't off a mirror? How can you prove the sun's
I'm not
not a
saying it isn't
reflection?
either. Oh God. Let me just round out my point. My point is that from your Dawn.
Yes, they do. Are you kidding me?
Hey Dan.
Of course they will. That's why you get more sun when you're near water, the surface of water.
And why do people that go skiing
you get more of a sunburn?
Why do skiers get sunburnt?
Yeah, I was going to say
that wasn't my point. That wasn't my point. My point was that when you're sat in the chair, if I'd have got to the end of my point, that you don't know until you go and investigate what is actually the source. And as you get close to it, you realise it's a reflection of something else. Well, until you actually go up to the sun, you might get to it and go, oh, it's not actually coming from the point I thought it was. It's coming from over there. But until you get up there and actually examine it, you've got no way of knowing that it's actually coming from that point. It could be reflected from a completely different place for all we know. But you don't know. That's the point.
But that's kind of what I was going to get at, though, is even if I were to, let's say we would just agree that it's possible it could be coming from somewhere else, but it's reflecting off of this, and you'd still be getting the physical. So you'd have to assume that wherever it was originating from, there was a physical sun. And he was going on about the fusion and how do we know?
Why?
Okay,
why do you have to
right.
assume
Some
that?
reflections can cause burning, but obviously.
Hold on, John. Why do we have to assume that?
Maybe in your mind you have this need to do this because you're used to assuming that it is a ball of fire, but I don't. There is no need.
It's not even. You don't need any assumptions to do this because it would have. You're getting something from it. You're getting energy from it. You're getting heat from it. You're getting radiant heat, thermal heat.
You're getting energy and heat.
You don't know it's coming from it.
The light.
You don't know it's coming from it.
But you do know that this object that you're seeing is the only object that's going to give it to you.
It's not an object.
It's
not an object. It's an apparent disk. It's a holographic phenomena.
Okay. But you're receiving something from it.
No.
So
you're seeing it.
From it.
You're seeing it. That's it.
So your air conditioning system. Hold on, let me just give you another example.
No,
hold on, Arwen.
From light, not from the disk that you're seeing there.
Can I just give one more example? So your air conditioning system blows heat out, right? And from as far as you're concerned, you look up at the top corner of your room, and there's a black grate. The source of heat.
Hello.
Hi, Josh. The source of heat. Well, no, the source of heat is not the black grate in the top corner of your room. It's your air conditioner or whatever it is that's powering the heat. That's the source. But just by looking at it and going, well, that's delivering me heat, you would assume that the grate is the great source of heat. Well, it isn't.
The great source.
Oh, this is silly.
No, that's literally that's a very good.
It might be silly, but it's real world. Nathan's point's accurate. You look at the sun.
If you were getting burned by your mirror in your living room and it was really bright and you thought that was the sun, wouldn't you try and investigate to see?
Let's try it
where
with the
that
same
bright light's
example.
coming from?
So
why would you go investigate?
Hold on, Dawn. So you go up to your grate. Dawn, you go up to the grate, the one that's the great source of heat, and you stick your arm next to it, and it burns you, right? And you go, there's something in the grate, and you take the screws off, and you see there's an empty void because it's not the source of the heat, but it's still burnt you, hasn't it?
Yeah,
I don't understand.
But that's what I'm saying, though. Even if we're suggesting that the thing that you're viewing is not the starting point of the source, you still have to say that there is a source of heat. There is something that is emanating that heat.
Yeah.
And that
leads me hitting you. How many times? Come on.
Yeah, but that light's coming from somewhere.
That's right. But you can't establish where.
Sure. Let's say you can't. Let's say you can't establish where. Now
From
let's go back to
doesn't mean necessarily from something.
Well, it does. Even in the scenario with the air conditioner or there's heat coming from something, this doesn't come from nowhere. It has to come from something.
Yeah, but
there is something.
But that is local.
But what is that something? That's the question, right?
Yeah, and something. It's a physical something. It's something that's actually happening. There's consequences to it.
Yeah.
And so it's not just a optical illusion or something like that.
With heating, that is generally true, but with sunlight, it does not have to be true.
But there's so many consequences to the sunlight. It's not even just the one type of heat. There's ultraviolet rays. There's so many different ranges.
Light is a lot of things.
Right. Well, yeah, and the light from the sun specifically, and going back to
Yeah,
the
it definitely
identifying.
has to come from somewhere, but to assume that it has to come from something, no, you don't. You have to find out where it comes from, and then you can figure out if
So
it's coming from
how are you
something.
finding out where it's coming from then, Owen?
Oh, tracing the source
Well,
somehow.
take me through
Yeah.
step one of.
That's not
It's
our
not the
point.
sun.
You don't need to suddenly trace the source and tell you how to figure out what it is for us to say you just can't assert it's physical. We can do that. We can say just don't assert it's physical. You don't know. We don't know. But it doesn't mean that we've suddenly got to start tracking the sun and travelling to it to satisfy this argument that you can't assert without proof that it's physical.
Well, all you're arguing otherwise is that you don't believe what we
We're not
believe.
arguing otherwise. We're smashing your point.
No, it's your show, mate.
No, you don't get it. You
People
don't
come on
have
to
to come up
smash
with
your
bullshit
points.
to smash someone's point into the ground. Yeah, if I
But
say
you
unicorns are
haven't smashed
real,
the point. You
if
know,
I
the
say
sun still
unicorns
exists
are real, yeah,
till daytime.
you can smash that into the ground by any means you choose. You don't have to come up with an alternative to unicorns.
Well, I don't even want to. I don't. The goal is not to smash it into the
You're
ground.
happy
But
with
Yeah, it
just
is. That
laughing
is the
at
goal.
science
That
and
is the
not
goal.
inventing your own reality. Just
Yeah,
That's
Don,
not-
you
I don't
just
know
don't.
No,
anything.
we're not inventing our own
Just say it how it
reality.
is. You don't get it. You can't get it through your head that something may not be physical that you've believed all of your life. You can't get it in your head, and that's why you're basically
Show
just
me evidence. That,
denying everything. Just
show
like
me
no.
evidence. The light and the heat.
You're
is
just saying
somewhere
no,
else.
like a 6-year-old. I don't get
what
it.
other
So
example?
no.
What other
right?
example has a consequence that is not actually that's not a real thing?
Rainbows.
Like it has a lot of consequences, but it's not a real thing.
Rainbows.
Rainbows have no consequence. You can see them, but there's nothing at the end of the rainbow. There's no gold. It's just an arc in the sky that you can visually
Now
see.
that's a so story.
It has a consequence.
Story that
The
may-
frequencies of light that are hitting your eye when you look at the rainbow are not the same
Right.
as you're not looking at a rainbow. There's a consequence.
Right, you're right. You can see them. It's a visual optical illusion. It has
The light has an
something to do with-
intensity. The light coming from the rainbow has a particular band of intensities that is unique to it.
Have you ever seen a reflection in a mirror of a rainbow?
Yeah, and you can, like I said, you can see these things. These are something you can see, and
Have
you can.
ever
you
seen
can-
a reflection of a rainbow in a mirror?
The rainbow will always appear the same no matter if you move side to side or if you try to move toward it. It won't change size, right?
Yeah.
It'll just
And
apparently be the same distance the entire time.
That's right. But like I said, this does not have the same consequence as the sun, where you can pick
Yes,
up
it
energy
does.
from it.
There's
Yeah,
a
you
very
can pick
small-
up
you
massive
can
amounts of
pick up
energy.
from a rainbow. You should be able to. It's not as much as the sun, but
No,
there's
well,
energy.
one would argue that the
Rainbow
energy, the light that's going into the rainbow is the light from the sun as well. So any energy wouldn't really be coming from the rainbow; it would just be coming
but it
from
shows-
whatever this light was.
Sure, but it shows that that a light, an apparent source of light doesn't necessarily reflect a physical object at a discrete location.
And besides, I already explained, the energy is literally being generated where the light hits matter and is absorbed. That creates the energy, creates either heat or electricity in the solar panel. Doesn't have anything to do with the source. It's just the light hitting matter. That's
Well,
all.
that's what I mean. Light doesn't come from nowhere either. There's nothing that creates light that is nothing.
Oh, really?
Like the light comes from a physical. It comes from something. All light that we
So
know.
if you want to generate it yourself using a mechanism, but yeah, there's still the sun out there. So go ahead and prove that it is physical
Well,
without assuming that it is a physical thing, without actually being able to find where it really is. Because every time you look at it, it's holographic. It moves. You can't really trace it back, really.
Well,
So,
the point.
good luck.
also, it moves uniform to the way we understand it to move. Also, so it's not.
It moves uniform
moving, it's
with
moving.
your observer position.
Well, right, because it's
Because-
you know,
It's not literally at a set distance because it's at an apparent distance.
yeah,
Because
but
it's
if
not a
you're
physical object, it's a light phenomena.
yeah, but if you're let's say you're on let's just assume it's a sphere for just a moment. Let's say
No.
you're someone who's let's say I don't know, let's say in Dallas, Texas, okay, and then you're going 6,000 miles east, 6,000 miles west on the lines of latitude, okay. you would see this in a measurable way, not in a way that would say it was like, in a observer position. You would see it at noon in the center, and you would see it at the dusk and dawn on either side. And then you would not see it on the other side of the world, the other half of the world. So it's not like a phenomena. This is a measurable position.
No. You've just said if we assume we're on a sphere. So you're already begging but you're begging the question to begin with. So just
I'm saying that it works perfectly there. It doesn't have to be a rainbow-like object. Whatever you can measure.
It measures out. It measures out in your model.
If we assume we're on a sphere, that's begging the question. So you start off on a sphere, you've presupposed your outcome, and now you're saying it's some sort of proof of something. It's just a presupposition.
No, I'm not saying it's proof. I'm saying it works without having to imagine that it's some optical illusion.
You just said we had to imagine we were on a sphere. Let's just imagine we're on a sphere for a second. So we don't have to imagine an optical illusion of it moving when we move, which we see, but we do have to imagine we're on a ball.
Like I said, I'm only using this just to suggest that it doesn't have to be an object that doesn't exist, which is, I think, what's being said, because it obviously is creating energy and it is creating light, which is a consequence of the light that we use and the energy that we use. And then that was going to go.
For God's sake, you have to point them towards the sun.
Formological fallacy. That's all that is.
That's not
right. You know why it's pointing towards the sun, Don? You know why it's pointing towards the sun?
This is not a fallacy.
Towards the sun? Because the apparent sun is the focal point from which daylight comes.
Okay, well, let's go back to the apparent sun then. And let's stop assuming that it's a globe and all these other things. So, like I was saying, I'm not going to assume it's physical. I'm just going to say it's physical. It's something. It's a real thing. So let's say it's a real thing because we're getting consequences of it. The same test that you said would not count. The spectra, I can't say that, but the one where you use you get the light rays and you take out like the signature.
Spectroscopy.
It's this is coming from somewhere, even if it's only the apparent sun and it's actually somewhere else. You still have to say this is a real physical thing, and this signature. I mean, it tells us that there's helium and hydrogen.
No, it's a formological fallacy. No, so you're saying you're saying all light must be created from a physical source. So therefore, that light must be a physical thing. That's nonsense.
Arwen, you guys think that when you look in a mirror, that the reflection that comes back, that's you, right?
Well, you could apply spectroscopy to a mirror as well. It wouldn't tell you about the chemical makeup of the mirror.
No, but we're not talking about the mirror. We're talking about the light.
Doesn't necessarily, you have to prove that that's the only possible, that if and only if those conditions exist, that light is possible.
But when you look into a mirror and when you're shaving in a mirror, you know that it's you shaving in the mirror. You know that mirror is being accurate to what you are.
Yeah, but if you stand 12 foot from that mirror. If you stood 12 foot from that mirror and someone walked in and couldn't see you, they could only see your reflection.
Of me, or is that another me?
Sorry, Dawn. Didn't mean
so
to
now I've had
you.
I've had a little segue. Maybe I could just butt in for a second. This is a little off topic, but this is just something that I've just done. Okay, I've just done, and it was based on a suggestion from Ruhif. So, and I suggest that anyone could do this. So I live in Melbourne. And I've recently just traveled, it's 800 kilometers up to Brisbane and back. And I had a little set of scales with me. And I tested some weights on the scales down here. And then I went up to Brisbane and then I tested the weights on the scales and they weighed less.
Really?
And it blew my mind.
Time to buy some gold then, isn't it? Quick, buy some gold. Buy gold, lots of it, tons of it.
Go to Brisbane and then sell it. Buy it in Brisbane, buy the gold in Brisbane, and then go down to your place and sell it.
Invest everything you own in gold. That's what I suggest.
I want to piggyback on what he said because I told a couple of people on here that I'm actually conducting like 15 or 20 tests, and that's one of them. And that test alone wouldn't be enough to prove one way or the other. But if you made the correct measurements, like what he did, and do exactly what he did, and you had enough people to do it, which I'm trying to get more flat earth people to do these exact measurements, and we can compile the data. If you had enough data, you would know and you had a precise scale, of course, you would know what weight you're looking for, because the difference would be, I think, 0.3% from the North Pole to the equator in weight.
It is tiny, and the scales that I had only had 2 decimal places. But for me, it was just one of those other things. This is something that Flat Earth has to explain somehow, because
Why?
it seems to happen. It happened to
what?
me once, and I'm
So
going to
what?
try it again, because I
What's the
honestly
causal
didn't
explanation,
expect it to
Josh?
happen.
Josh, what's the cause? What's the causal explanation for what you have observed?
Again, now we're talking about gravity. So apparently, as you get closer to the equator's spinning faster.
So we're presupposing the Earth's a sphere, and we are presupposing we've got an equator, and we're presupposing that we're spinning. So how many more presuppositions do you need before you go on?
Josh, it isn't spinning faster. It's one revolution a day.
Nathan, I'm doing what you want to do in your scientific experiments.
Begging the question and starting out by telling us that we're spinning and that we're on a sphere? That's what science is it? Begging the question? Don't be a retard.
That's messed up.
Nathan, I've not even I'm not even doing an experiment. I've just...
Yeah, before you've even got to formulating a hypothesis, you've already decided that we're spinning on a sphere. Well, you've already decided it, right? No need to do a damn thing, Josh. You already know. We're already spinning, right?
Well,
no,
I'll
Nathan, hold back. I just said...
What do you mean hold back? I'm pointing out your fallacy. You don't have to tell me to hold back while I tear you a new one for your logical fallacy. Yeah? You already know you're spinning, don't you, Josh? You already know.
I'm adhering to your scientific method. I made an observation.
No, that's not a scientific method. Observation of phenomena. Get it right, man.
Well, it is a phenomena. I put something on a scale and I observed it. That's step 1.
Oh, it sounds so natural world, doesn't it? Very natural world. Is the scale man-made? Is that a natural phenomena?
Hey, Josh. I will say that.
Yes,
why are you laughing? Because you realise how retarded your statements are.
Well, it's not. It's actually not retarded. The correct way to do a test like this, the way I would do this test would be if I were to know what I'm going to be measuring and make predictions based off both models, because you're not testing something arbitrarily. You're testing to either disprove someone's claim that the Earth is spinning, or to explain a flat model. So in my test, I would make predictions on what a flat Earth would say in this scenario and what a globe Earth, the measurements it would make.
And so
you're testing models. Sorry, hold on. Just need to get clarity. Josh, hold on.
Say that everything
hold on, Josh. I need
everywhere?
to get clarity after that. So you're testing models.
We're testing the disproving.
Sorry, are you testing the models?
Well, that's how science is done usually.
No, you retard. We test the natural world in science. We don't test models. Models are pseudoscience.
No, you test...
Yeah, no, don't stutter. You formulate a scientific hypothesis, which establishes your cause and effect for your natural phenomena that you have observed. You don't test models, idiot.
Right.
A model is used when you have a limitation on your hypothesis. Do you understand what I've just said?
I do.
Good. So models aren't science. They are pseudoscience nonsense used by idiots like you, Lewis.
Guys, can I ask a quick question on the weights? What were the weights that you weighed?
Okay, this might sound a little bit... sorry, I heard an echo. This might sound a little bit druggy, but I had I've got a little set of scales. It's got 2 decimal places in grams, and I had a set of 5, 10, 20, 50, and 100 grams. And what I did was I've got the video. I might put it up. I don't know. I was just trying to get some feedback on it. But basically, I had them in Melbourne, and I hit tear on the scale, so it teared to 0, and I weighed them all, and I took a video of that, and they were all reading exactly what they were saying. And then I flew north 800 kilometers, and I just took it out of my bag and put them on the counter and did it again, and they were all less. As soon as I popped them all on, they were all less.
What were you weighing?
By how much?
What were you weighing?
Weights, Arwen, a little. Oh God, I'll just show you.
No, what was the deal in the weight?
Can you see my screen? Is my video working?
I can see, yes.
So so it was these little fellas. So these little if you can see that, hang on, I'll turn on another light. Oh, no, turned off a light. I'll turn on this light over here. Sorry if it's giving anyone seasickness. So these little weights here. So there's a little 100-gram jobby, and there's all these little different masses there, and that there is the set of scales. And yeah, to my absolute surprise, they read less when I was in Brisbane as to when I was in Melbourne.
And what's the
much
cause?
less?
What's the cause, Josh? What caused that?
How much less?
I don't know. What's the cause?
Nathan, I don't know. It
Josh,
blew my mind. I thought, wow, minutely. So, like I said, it was a 2 decimal 2 decimal scale, 0.00 at the end of the scale. And so I think if I remember, the 100 was like 99.97, and you know that sort of thing. So it was like fractions off.
Well, then,
but it was still less.
There's
Actually,
your answer.
their full weight.
Dude, there's your answer. Your scales aren't accurate enough to make those measurements, irrespective. All you've got there is a slight positioning issue with regards to your scales on the balance when you've took the two things. If it was 0.03% difference between the North Pole and the equator, you'd need to weigh something much heavier, which your pounds won't be able to cope with. And basically, you've got a class B balance there. So there's no way that they would be able to measure that minute difference that you're attempting to do. So whilst the effect may be there, you wouldn't be able to do it with those scales.
Good point. And by the way, you went with the airplane, right? So did your scales go through the airport scanner?
Internal.
Yeah, I don't know. I put them in. I didn't
carry them on you, or did they go through the scanner?
No, I didn't want to take them on my checked baggage, so I didn't want to take them on the plane with me, so I just put them in my checked baggage and they went to the checked baggage.
So they've been shoveled around and maybe even thrown on the floor somewhat, because some luggage is treated a little roughly in the airport sometimes in some locations. Went through a scanner, so they're subjected by high radiation, probably magnetics even. So yeah, could be they just got scrambled.
Yeah, if you guys are interested in doing, because it's the same test he'd done, but I've written the test, and I'm using a similar scale, but I'm using 1,000 grams, and I've calculated, because I was only going to go about 5 degrees of latitude up and down, and honestly, it'd be better if you can go further. But even with that, you can calculate the difference in change in speed, and there is 2 different speeds.
Sorry, what speed? What speed are you referring to?
I'm sorry?
Yeah.
Speed of what?
And
Hold on, Josh, shut your mouth.
Is there a
Josh,
website?
shut up.
I'll look for
Josh,
a website.
shut up.
What?
Speed of what, sorry?
Well, one is the angular speed that you
Speed
said
of
you were
what?
correct that there is one
Speed
singular
of
angular speed.
What? What speed of what?
Yeah, but there's also a directional speed.
Sorry, you're not answering my question. The speed of what?
I'm trying to tell you of the spin of the position of where you are.
Spin of
so
what?
It changes from the equator.
The spin of what?
The Earth.
Oh, so we're presupposing the Earth spins again. What a wanker. What a wanker. Did you not listen when I explained what begging the question was? Wanker.
Sure. I mean, there's plenty of science experiments.
Wanker. This is not science that you are doing. Dick. It was just gone through by Arwin. You haven't isolated a single sodding variable. Why the hell are you telling us about the same crap experiment that proves nothing unless you presuppose you're spinning? You absolute muppet. Yeah? Don't waste the panel's time. Don't waste the audience's time. Don't assert it's science. How dare you? You absolute buffoon.
Happen on debates, just to remind you.
Yeah, but this is just getting a little bit old, hearing the same kind of crap all over again. It's just
begging the question
mumbo
fallacies.
jumbo.
So you'd rather be on your own, would you? Talking your religious mumbo jumbo.
Sorry, what religious mumbo jumbo would that be?
Someone was robbing your house. Would you not put cameras up to see if someone was robbing your house? Would you not presume that someone is stealing stuff from your house, or would you?
Dude, surely the simplest thing is prove us wrong And this time
I
next
would
week,
ask my
we
neighbor if
got,
they heard something.
as a millionaire, making what you're going to make out of gold. Because if you've got that level of variance that's supposedly been shown on that Class B balance, all you've got to do is make a couple of trips, haven't you? If this was in any way real, this was in any way real, people would have been profiting from it, and it would be
there wouldn't have been enough profit. Like say for £1,000,
if
you
you
get 1,000 pounds of gold.
0.03%.
Yeah, as I said, you get 1,000 pounds of gold. The difference from the equator.
Now, how about
to the
diamonds?
North Pole where no one lives.
How about
this
diamonds?
proves
You
nothing.
know how big the
This
price
proves
difference
nothing.
is between a
Why are we still
pristine
talking
cut
about it?
1 carat diamond and a 2 carat diamond?
Why are we still talking
I
about it?
saw
It
How many,
proves
how many
nothing.
diamonds
It's just like a
have been
gram.
mined at the North Pole?
So it'll make
Yeah.
a giant difference.
Nobody goes and sells them at the North Pole, which is where they would weigh more. So if you look at where people live, I saw a map the other day that showed like the lines of latitude people live on. They're mostly concentrated in these lower ones here. So this weight difference is not. It's not something that comes in, and it's made
What
maybe
weight
known by the
difference?
people who sell these things, but it's not something that would
What
come
weight
of much
difference?
consequence.
Sorry,
Like if
what
you're
weight
selling
difference?
gold for an
Well,
ounce,
if
Listen,
it
stop
causes the weight
talking.
difference, you
What?
have no
Stop
proof that
talking.
it
What weight?
is caused by the
Arwin,
spin of the
Arwin,
Earth
can you
anyway.
not
So
well,
talk
this
over me?
is why my test was set up differently than his. The way I set my test up was
You're
you would
not
just
doing
measure
anything
those two
useful.
different
You're not
locations.
setting up a test. You're not isolating variables. All you're doing is
I am.
nonsense.
For my test, I am.
No, you're not. You're just performing nonsense. You haven't proved anything. You haven't isolated any variables. You're just talking nonsense. There is no
haven't
weight
seen my
change.
test.
You haven't proven that.
Yeah, I did isolate the variables by both only calibrating the scale once and making sure that it wasn't moved around or whatever. And then I'm also
God.
measuring other weights with this weight. And I'm also measuring it more than one location. So every degree of latitude, I'm measuring at least 3 or 4 times to where you get 20, between the 5 degrees of latitude, you get about 20
good
weight.
for you. Let's just assume that it all went well and honestly, and that you're actually not trying to fraud everyone. And I
No.
don't necessarily say that you are.
Well, no, that's
There
why I'm
is a
offering it
weight
to other
difference.
people.
There is a weight difference closer to the north than compared to the south. Whoop-de-doo. Doesn't prove spin of the Earth. It just proves there seems to be a variation
You're right.
in the gravity factor.
Good
You're
one.
right.
Nice.
In the
It would
downward
not
force
prove
factor.
anything.
That's what that proves. It could be
would not
caused
prove
by all
anything,
kinds
but
of things.
It would strengthen that understanding. If
No, it
we're saying
wouldn't.
that, if some
No,
saying
it will
it's
haven't
strengthen
proven
your belief
anything.
if you presume
Well,
that it is
it would-
spinning ball.
it
But
would
all
fit
the real
along-
data you have is that there is an actual gravity difference.
Well, the last thing I'll
Downward
say
force
about this,
acceleration, a weight difference.
the last thing I'll say
For
about this,
some
No,
reason.
don't say anything. You've not got any
It's not-
conclusions. You've
it's-
not
it's
proved
not-
anything. There's
that's what
nothing
I'm
to
trying to do,
conclude.
prove it
You
to you
don't need to
guys,
conclude
because I'm
anything,
offering
Lewis. You've not made any
together,
points. You've not
I'm the
proven
only
a damn
test.
thing, and now you're talking over me while I point out you've not proved anything. You've not conducted any science. You've not done anything useful. This is just nonsense. So you don't get to make a conclusion about your
Oh,
gibberish
the irony.
nonsense. Sorry. No conclusion from you.
The irony.
fair enough. Like I said, you're still welcome to participate and help me collect data if you'd like. If you don't, you don't have to. No one's forcing you. But
Data
the
for
goal
what?
is to
Good
get
luck with
Data
it.
for what?
I'm curious
For
to
what?
see. I've heard this rumor about weight differences in the north compared to the south, and I'm very interested in it. It is a phenomenon. I'm very interested. What could cause this? But I'm pretty damn sure it's
You
not
just have
being
to think
caused
up
by
your
the
own
spinning
version
of a
of how
globe
it's
Earth.
caused,
So
Just make something up and say that's how
Yeah,
it's
that's
What,
what I want to
spin?
hear. I want to
Earth
hear
spin,
how
for
they
example,
how they
Dawn.
make it. Sorry, Dawn Trent. I want to hear how they make something up to account for this.
Well, Owen's definitely creative enough.
Spin.
When
For example,
the tests
spin.
are not consistent
spin.
with the
Hello?
prediction, then they just claim that it's due to local geological conditions, and that's often the case.
It's kind of lazy just to say that doesn't happen rather than make up something to explain it.
maybe.
No, it's
So if you can find a consistent variation in the latitude and the weight difference correlation, if there is a very specific set percentile difference, well, then you have some proof that there is a correlation.
Faster on the edge than the middle, yeah.
Then you have a proof that there is a correlation with the weight differential and the latitude. That's still very interesting. It's still not proof of a spinning globe, because that's still based on the presumption.
But it is
that
another
it's a globe.
thing that you guys are going to have to make up, and you can't just use perspective.
Make up for what? What
Well,
what are we trying to disprove
Well,
here?
if-
Your
if-
nonsense
if-
that proves nothing.
if-
We don't need
if
to make
masses-
up anything.
if
Not
masses-
only do we not need to make up anything generally to smash this nonsense into the next week, but it's nonsense to begin with. It doesn't prove anything. It's not science. There's no need to help you if you're telling me to go out and do this myself, because I wouldn't prove
It is
anything.
science, man.
It is science, is it, Dawn?
You're still going to have.
Hold on,
You're still
hold
going to have to
on.
make something up,
Josh,
Nathan.
put the
You're still
steam
gonna have
back in
to
your
just
ears. We've heard
pretend
enough of your
something
nonsense.
We have to
make believe
figure out
something.
what causes it. That's not making something up.
It could be the curved windows in the airplane causing it, maybe.
No, that's all optics. If there is some kind of weight difference, that's a very interesting phenomena to explore and figure out why that could be caused.
Or angular resolution,
Right.
that might.
No, it's all still optics. This is about weight. This is potentially about the downward acceleration force, whatever causes it. It is a clue if it really is a thing.
Why is
It's
it
very
about that,
interesting,
Arwen?
But
What about
doesn't have to-
barometric pressure changes at different geographical
you
locations?
just
Could
have
that
to
be the
figure
cause,
out
Arwen?
what causes it.
Could that be the cause? Different barometric pressures?
You know what? It could. That's what I'm saying. That I don't want to conclude that this would be the spin, because that's not the idea to do one test and say that this is conclusive. But I want to reiterate that that's the whole point of going at degrees, like 20 times, going up to 5 degrees, is because if you looked at it on a graph and then you looked at everyone's data, and if you saw all of them going in like a straight path, as if the weight increased only when you increase your latitude, then you would have to suggest that, okay, maybe this is something here. But it would not be complete proof, which is the idea of doing the other
Wouldn't prove
tests that
anything.
we're
What do you mean
doing.
wouldn't be complete proof? It wouldn't prove a damn thing. Literally. To prove things, you need to establish cause and effect relationships. The methodology used is science. This is not science. This is just nonsense.
It is science.
It
Really,
depends on
Dawn,
the
that's the second
conclusion
time
you're
you've said
drawing.
that. Everyone
you
shut
can
their mouths.
measure it. You can still measure it.
Arwen, right, Dawn, can you tell me what the hypothesis is, please?
Oh dear.
It's science because you're conducting an experiment.
Yes,
And it provides
an experiment would be an expression of a hypothesis. It's an actualization of a hypothesis. That's what an experiment is, Dawn. That's why I asked you
There's
what the
many types of
hypothesis was.
experiments.
I mean, I could tell you what the hypothesis.
Shut up! Lewis, why are you talking? Shut up. Dawn, explain to the audience what the hypothesis is, please.
No, thanks.
No thanks. Yeah, this
No.
isn't science, dickhead. Okay?
This is an experiment.
Don't
I'm
say for a
conducting
third
now on
time
you
that this
guys.
is science, Dawn.
I'm
Okay?
conducting an experiment on you
Dawn,
now, Nathan.
answer me. Put the steam back in your ears.
The
Explain that you
hypothesis,
have understood
I think
without
you're a
talking
little
over me,
insane.
which is what you're doing, Dawn, that you have understood that this is not science.
I'm conducting my own experiment on you now,
An
Nathan.
experiment is an expression of a hypothesis. Clearly, you weren't listening, you were talking while I was talking. If you say you are performing an experiment, then that is an expression of a hypothesis. That is why I've asked you on several occasions to tell me what the hypothesis is, and you have said no thank you.
Why should I?
Because you have asserted that you are performing an experiment, Dawn.
It's not me. I said it's an experiment. That counts.
Yeah, that's why. Because an expressions of hypothesis is an experiment.
My experiment's working
Hey,
well at the moment.
Yeah, you're a moron.
Your experiment.
This is not
Test
science.
immunity.
Let's
Hey,
just get it
can-
clear. Not
Yeah.
science.
can I just run by?
Experiment on you guys.
Yeah, but you're assuming that
Do you guys mind if I just run a little
Live on
just a little
Run. No
experiment of my own, and I just want to know before I even do it how you guys are going to take it. If you just bear with me for like 30 seconds, what I'm thinking of doing is basically, if you remember, I was on the show a couple of weeks ago. I'm about to fly around Australia a lot, and I was thinking what I could do is basically when I'm in the plane, I'm looking out the window, bottle of water. And I could hold up the bottle of water, and the water's flat. We all know the water's flat. And so I get a camera, just my phone, and I look across the plane of the flat water in the bottle, and I look out the window. And so from that, if the horizon is always lower than that flat plane, then does that not mean that everywhere slopes away from me?
No, that's not an experiment. Why didn't you just listen to the ribbing I gave Dawn rather than trying to talk over him? An experiment is an expression of a hypothesis. And oh my god, these guys. And a hypothesis establishes a cause and effect relationship, right? So if you want to establish what causes whatever you're looking at to happen, then you need to do some science. That would mean establish a cause and effect for the observed phenomenon. So, unless you can establish what the independent and dependent variable are, the cause and effect, this is meaningless nonsense, like your weights.
Step 1, please reiterate what step 1 of an experiment is.
Step 1 of the scientific method is observe a phenomena.
Right, great, thank you. So if I'm observing a phenomena which is at being level and the horizon's lower, the horizon's lower than level. That's the phenomena, right?
No, that's a concrete noun. Don't you understand what a phenomenon is? Something's got to actually happen. Something's got to happen. If you say a tree, that's a phenomenon. No, that's just a tree. Leaves falling off a tree, that's a phenomena. Do you understand the difference?
Oh.
Clearly not. That's why I've been met with silence. I'm literally in the midst of perspective deniers and science deniers.
Nathan, you can't debate people if you're going to mute them when they speak. This is not good.
I'm not muting anybody, dickhead.
Well, they're telling me you were muting me when I was trying to speak to you.
Oh, really? Well, they can tell you what they like, dickhead.
All right, if you weren't, that doesn't matter. But I did hear you doing it to Rumpus.
Yeah, because he talks continually. And
Because
that's what I
it's
do
Rumpus.
to combat assholes that talk
okay.
over me, like this guy. Who the hell's talking? Yeah, that's why I combat that, so the audience can actually hear what I'm saying.
Yeah, but this isn't really how debates go. I know it gets lively, but...
Right, most debates allow one person to speak, then the other. Rumpus, on the other hand, talks non-stop.
Yeah.
Right, well, as a producer of a show, that's unacceptable for an audience. It's unlistenable. I've got to combat that problem. So if you talk over me, I absolutely guarantee you, I'll be the one heard. If you want to cry foul because you don't get to talk over me like you're doing now, that's tough shit. Sod off. There's the door. Go away. You're all welcome to join, but you can understand this. The rules are my rules. And you don't like them. No one's asking you to like the rules.
Can I say something? You know Riley wants that description on the calculator saying objects get smaller as they go further away. I think you need one on your description saying we will be horrible to you if you come on and preach science or try and defend your model.
You're not preaching science. You're pretending that it's science. That's why you're getting told off.
Mr. David, I know you didn't want my explanation for the hypothesis for my my experiments, but if you'd let me, I tell you very simply, and I know your definition of it, but your definition of it is maybe a little bit different than the way I understand it, because it may not only be that
Your
exclusive
definition is wrong.
Well, yeah. So the way I understand it is it can use any evidence or any idea or anything like that as a as a proposed take a proposed explanation for something, for example.
What, an assumption?
Yeah,
no, that's not science. Starting with an assumption is definitely not science. Yeah, we observe a phenomenon. That's the first step in science.
I'm reading the definition of the word. I really am, and it can use a supposition or a proposed explanation made on the basis of limited evidence.
Yeah, that's begging the question. You set out if you set out with the assumption that something is occurring, and then you use mathematics to prove your own assumption, you are begging the question.
That's the opposite of what I'm doing now. I'm trying to disprove it. Trying to disprove the proposed explanation. And I'm using two separate, I'm trying to show what it would look like if it were spinning or if it were not spinning and flat.
Right, well, that's not science.
You could say that this is not enough science, but
it's not science at all. Science establishes a cause and effect relationship. That's all science does.
Well, like I said, I'm just trying to see if these explanations that have been given to us, if they're true or if they're not true. It may be that
your method doesn't prove it. Sorry.
Maybe then maybe it won't. Maybe it will show us that actually every explanation we've been given is false. And so, in which case, that would be that'd be reason to celebrate if you're already sold to the flat model.
Well, maybe
It
they
might show
won't.
us that
Maybe
these.
they'll just give you some information, and you will draw the conclusion that you like out of it.
No,
Nope.
that's not how it works though. Because what happens is you make the
Isn't it?
predictions
Really?
first.
Isn't it?
Well, no, that could be a dishonest person may do that. The way I'm coming from it is I'm making
Or a
predictions
believer.
beforehand.
Somebody
You make the
that's
predictions
doing all
first, do
that
you?
work to
No. Sorry, can I
to
just
confirm
explain something,
something?
Arwin? A prediction, there's a special type of prediction. Yes, it's called a hypothesis. It establishes the...
No,
Don't talk over me! Right? A special kind of prediction is scientific prediction is a hypothesis. It establishes the independent and dependent variable. That is a scientific prediction.
Okay, so if I went ahead and I measured the supposed speed at the supposed latitudes.
Speed of
And I
what?
went ahead
Sorry,
and
speed of
I
what?
measured,
Speed of
and I
what?
calculated.
Speed of
and I
what?
calculated-
Speed
if I
of
can't-
what?
I can't finish the sentence. But
Speed of
if
what? I don't
calculated
understand what you're measuring the speed of.
The speed of the planet. It's supposed to be. Let's.
Oh, so we're begging the question, so it's got a speed and it's a planet. Right? How many times do I have to take this retard through the begging the question fallacy?
Yeah, this is exactly what I try to explain to you. As long as you're not going to follow the actual scientific method, you're going to just do something, tell yourself it is science, and then draw the conclusion you like. And you seem to be doing it through a lot of presuppositional spheres and spinning.
What are
So-
some science
so gi-
experiments?
It's very
given-
nice for you that you can do these things that you call experiments to confirm to yourself that you are on a globe, but it doesn't actually scientifically prove it.
When your
It
premise,
just-
So given,
It just
given that flat Earth
confirms
can't
your
predict
belief.
anything, there's no science in flat Earth, right? Given that flat Earth can't predict a thing, there's no science in flat Earth.
Right, what are you talking about? Prediction. Scientific. That is a hypothesis. I just explained this, Josh. Are you deaf?
But
did
you
sound
can't.
like
But flat Earth can't predict anything. So
Flat Earth isn't used for predicting things. There's a special type of prediction called a scientific prediction. It's a hypothesis. It establishes a
Sure,
cause.
you
Why are you talking
still
over
can't
me?
predict
This is
anything,
why
so
I have
you've
the
got
mute
no
button.
special science.
Assholes who accuse me. This is why I have it. Because I want to be heard on my own damn show while Josh talks over me for the third time. The scientific prediction is the hypothesis. It's a special kind of prediction that establishes a cause and effect, an independent and a dependent variable. That's science. Anything outside of that you call a prediction is not science.
Yeah, actually.
So flat Earth is not science.
No, science is science, flat Earth is flat Earth, and we are not saying that science is flat Earth or that flat Earth predicts things. There's a certain type of prediction that is deemed scientific, a scientific prediction, and that would be a hypothesis. It establishes a cause and an effect, an independent variable and a dependent variable. That is science.
Stop talking over Nathan.
Yeah, that's why I've got the mute button for the assholes. I'm showing the audience at the moment, 50% of the time, that the reason I have to mute these wankers is because they talk continually whenever you get to a good point. Yeah? When I say to Rumpus, do we see the world in absolute terms, or do we see them in perspective terms, relative terms? And he talks continually while I ask the question, and then cries foul because he's being muted. Yeah? No, assholes. Yeah? We're holding you to account for your stupid nonsense, your presupposition in this case that we're on a sphere that spins. And every time you do it and just say, I'm going to measure the speed, and quickly glaze over the fact that you're presupposing that Earth is a sphere with a speed, I'm going to point it out. Now you can try and talk over me like an asshole and then cry, oh no, we're presupposing our very existence here, but it's totally offensive that I get muted. when I talk over the fact that it's pointed out that I'm presupposing my outcome, which is what this asshole has done multitudes of times. You don't like this treatment, assholes? Just go away. Don't beg the question in front of me, and you won't get told by me that you're begging the question. Okay?
Mr. Oakley, I haven't got to even finish my
Oh, here we go again. I got told I didn't even get to finish my crap point that proved nothing. Yeah, you won't get to finish your crap point that proves nothing, because I'll stop you in your tracks, call you a retard, and shut you up, and say, stop begging the question here, retard. I've explained it to you on this show 3 times.
The entire world, every detail. You just have to presuppose everything. And then
No, but that's the thing, though. I don't know what science experiments you guys are fans of, if you've heard of any, but the majority of them are made to disprove other people's theories.
No, they're designed to prove things. You are such an idiot. I've said it about 5 times. It establishes cause and effect.
Right. So this science prediction, what I'm talking about doing, making predictions beforehand.
Hypothesis. That would be a hypothesis. A scientific prediction, I've said this about 3 times, is a hypothesis.
Right. And
so,
you can use...
Right, so you've agreed. Excellent. So what is your independent variable? So you're talking over me again. What is your independent variable in your hypothesis?
Okay, so let me continue, please, because you complain about people interrupting you, but you've interrupted me every time I began talking. And then you're assuming what I'm saying is incorrect. And it's not incorrect at all. The prediction, what you're using as your prediction is whatever, let's say in this situation.
Don't tell me what a scientific prediction is. This is why you get interrupted. I've asked you for your hypothesis. You have accepted that a scientific prediction is a special kind of prediction. It's a hypothesis. And a hypothesis establishes a cause and effect. The cause being the independent variable, which is what I'm trying to get out of you.
Right. So
so give it me. What's your independent variable?
So I'm trying to tell you, honestly, I'd give you a full answer if you just don't interrupt me and I'd finish talking. And for this prediction, you would have to use the proposed theory that the Earth was spinning.
Right. Well, you'd have to beg the question then, you retard. I don't want you to beg the question. That's not science. Oh my God. So I interrupt you to point out repeatedly what science is, and you tell me as your answer that you want to beg the question. Oh my God.
You're diverting what I'm saying.
What, diverting that you want to beg the question and presuppose it's a sphere that's spinning? No, I'm not diverting, mate. I'm pointing out your idiocy.
You know, kids might be listening to this. You understand that? And I want them to understand that what we're talking about, this is how you should do it. It really is. You should.
No, it's not how you should do it. Don't beg the question. Don't assume your outcome. If you want to prove how something works, you establish its cause by doing a special kind of prediction. That would be a hypothesis. Something that establishes an independent and dependent variable.
Yeah, so gravity, in this case, you would have to use this as one of the, you have to presume this is true, and not to test for it, but to test against it.
Assume what's true.
Disproving it.
Assume what's true.
So gravity would be 1, and then the speed of the planet at the equator, and then the change in circumference at each latitude. You'd have to make these calculations yourself beforehand and measure how what the change should be in between each in each latitude.
This is nonsense.
You would make these predictions based off those calculations.
Sorry,
and
if you think saying to you again and again what a prediction is. I keep telling you what a prediction is.
It's not stupid, it's not retarded, but it's also not the scientific method.
It's not science. This is nonsense. Pseudoscience. Proves nothing.
So what would you do then?
Oh, the scientific method. I would lay down a special kind of prediction. One that establishes an independent and dependent variable. Like I've told you about 5 times.
Okay, so go on.
I'm not asserting anything here, you stupid wanker. This is you who thinks you've got an experiment. You've said about weights that you've done. We've ripped that to shreds. Now you're presupposing something else. So what are you asking me for? My prediction of what?
Nathan,
You're the one who claims you've got an experiment.
Help us all
You
and give us an
idiot.
example of an experiment, please?
Me? No.
Well, we could.
Yeah, just an example of any experiment. Could you just help us all, please, and let
No.
us know what you're actually
You
talking
tell
about?
me your experiment for proving that we're on a spinning ball. You give me your scientific evidence of your religious belief.
Well, could you just like outline an example of an experiment that you would make to prove that it's flat, please?
No.
Long
We are not
distance
backed by
observation at
science,
minimal
right?
observer heights.
We have not had
We got lots of them.
2,000 years of science backing us, asserting it's a sphere. You have. You've had science backing you, saying it's a sphere with nothing but nonsense and pseudoscience to back it up. Now, if you want to give me all of science and their attention to prove it's flat with science, I'd give it about a year with the whole body of science behind us and infinite funding, right? We've got none of that. We've got people telling us we're wrong. You idiots who tell us with pseudoscience, even though the people who apparently are scientists support this notion of nonsense, that if you presuppose you're on a sphere and then go and measure using those presuppositions, it proves you're on a sphere. Well, that's utter nonsense. You telling me to prove it with science? Yeah, Josh said earlier, science isn't on our side. So why the hell are you asking me, with a standard that has laid down 2,000 years of assertion with scientific backing, that is provable with nothing? That's your standard, not mine.
So what we've all just heard is that you have no idea what an experiment is, and you can't even give an example of one.
Yes, an experiment is an expression of a hypothesis. It actualises the hypothesis. That is an experiment. It is your hypothesis.
So could you please give
Shut
us
up!
an example?
Shut up! It is your hypothesis test. That is what an experiment is.
But please, an example, Nathan.
I'm not here asserting anything. Do you not get it? I'm defining the methodology of what this wanker is telling people is a prediction. Well, Mystic Meg makes predictions. They mean nothing. But there's a special kind of prediction he could use for his assertion, not mine.
Well, you sound like a smart guy.
Yeah, I am. Thanks very much.
I think was a smart guy, and he made like 4 papers in 1905, and no one bought it right away. And so what some retard, some British retard, according to you, he wanted to disprove Einstein's theory of relativity. And so he actually took the equations and went to study an eclipse in 1919 to see if the stars behind the sun.
This is pseudoscience. Yeah. Astronomy is pseudoscience. It is not science. It is pseudoscience. It falls into the category of pseudoscience. That is what astronomy is. Not science, but pseudoscience.
You think that's a fact? Or is that your...
Yes, fact. There is nothing in astronomy that establishes a cause and effect relationship.
What
That's
about radar
science.
is bouncing off the moon?
Oh, here we go. We've got another contender. Sorry, P. You're going to lay down a bit of hypothesis for us, are you, my friend?
No, I was going to talk about how Jay Dyer went on the Non-Sequenter show and he made them look stupid because he actually reads books. So he knows things about conspiracies, unlike everyone on this panel who doesn't know jack.
We weren't talking about conspiracies. We were talking about the shape of the Earth. Yeah? And when you guys assert it's a sphere, how you have nothing but presuppositions and claimed experiments, when in reality you have nothing but pseudoscience and tests that prove nothing.
The last book you read, boy.
The last book I read, 1984.
Yeah. Really?
Yeah.
How long ago was that?
What year you read it, Nathan? That was Dr. Seuss he read in 1984.
Sorry, why are we ad homing me and my intellect when I'm tearing your presuppositional arguments, and you asshole? Is it suddenly how intelligent is Nathan and how many books does he read? Is that your argument, is it? Is that how you defeat my pointing out that you presuppose your world?
Know what one is.
Is that how you defeat my argument that you presuppose your world, by asking me how many books I've read?
Yeah.
Wow, great argument.
I was just pointing out how dumb you are. You know
Oh, really?
You're like a grocer.
That's great argument
And
too.
flat Earth is
Great
flat
argument.
Earth is dumb.
Great
Thank
argument.
you.
Almost as good as a proof of an R value. That's a wonderful argument you got there, Pete.
Like
Devastating.
Jay Dyer made everyone on non-sequitur look stupid and ignorant. If you went on there, you would look like a complete fool who doesn't read.
I've been on there.
Yeah, oh yeah, that's what you looked like. You looked like a total fool.
Oh, really?
Like why don't you read books so when you go into these and talk
First
to
opening statement on the Non Sequitur show, they explained that science was the opinion of the consensus. That's what they told us. And at that point, I was like, really? That's what you think science is? Well, then you're all idiots.
You don't have a clue what science is, Nathan.
Yeah, I do.
No, you don't. You just listen to John Stenja, who's also full of crap.
Right. So this is John's method, is it? Or is this science that we're talking about?
So, Nathan, if you know about it, please give us an example of a scientific experiment.
Why?
Of-
I'm not
of
asserting anything with
anything
science,
at all.
and I'm not
You
backed
pick
by
it.
science. So who cares? I'm not asserting that I can prove the Earth is flat with science, am I? Right, so what's the problem here? We've got some idiot on the panel who thinks he can prove it with science and starts telling us about his predictions and his weights that go across the plane, right? What does that prove? Well, you can establish a cause and effect.
the words I said.
We can establish a cause and effect if we use science. But you guys deny science and would prefer to presuppose things and use pseudoscience.
Mr. Oakley, I didn't say anything about proving anything. I specifically told you that already.
Right,
So, Nathan,
disproving
how would you conduct the test in
presupposition.
your scientific method?
Wowee. Very clever.
Subject.
Sorry about that. P decides to play some music.
I used to like that show, DuckTales. But once again, Mr. Oakley, I never said I was trying to prove anything. Okay. Most science is actually made to attempt to falsify others' claims or maybe your own claim. And that's really all I'm trying to do is to attempt to falsify the idea of spin, given the several factors like the gravity and the supposed speed and this being measured. And you would find, I mean, in any kind of situation
Based
like
on
this.
presuppositional arguments.
Yeah, we've already gone through this like 3 times.
And like I said, that's why it's made to falsify it, not to prove it.
Well,
But
falsify
if the
something that
data,
you assumed is happening. What are you talking about? This is just gibberish.
So
Is
you
it?
failed to falsify spin. That's what your experiment does.
That's right. We're going to see if we can falsify the idea of spin. And it's not the only test.
So you
There's several.
presuppose we're on a spinning globe and then fail to falsify spin.
You said fail to falsify it? No, I want to falsify it.
I know, but you're not doing, but what you're saying is that because you don't succeed in falsifying it, then therefore it's spinning.
No, I'm not saying that. And that's what I'm trying to get at. I keep getting told that I'm trying to prove it. And the conclusion of my test and what I tell the people who I'm working on these tests with is I'm not using this to make a conclusion in itself. Okay. This is just an attempt to falsify.
You're testing the logical consistency of the model, right?
I'm sorry?
You're testing the logical consistency of the model.
Right. Well, the logical consistency, and then also trying to compile this data together with other data, which would give you because this is not the only test for spin either. And so if this test were conclusive,
the
other
model
tests
is based on presupposition to begin with. That's why when you test on models, you're no longer doing science. I went through this as well.
I know you did, but
yeah, you didn't get it.
I have
that's
to
for
be honest with you that I'm not really taking your word.
Yeah, you don't have to. I don't care. Anybody with an intellect who's listening knows I'm right.
People have gotten Nobel Prizes.
Yeah.
For doing exactly what you're
Right.
calling retarded.
People get Nobel Prizes for pseudoscience all the time. So what?
Sure.
Yeah, so what?
So what? So I'm just saying I'm not taking your word for it.
Yeah, I'm not asking you to.
I've read.
I'm just right, whether you like it or not.
But I've named one, and people became famous because of this. We know of relativity because of this.
Quantum
Hi, that's
I'm
been.
not even going to begin with this with you. This is pointless conversation. You just do nothing but beg the question. How you doing, Ranty? Haven't heard much from you. You around?
I hear a lawnmower.
Yeah. Got nothing from Ranty.
No, I think he
Hey,
probably
has Nummy Num debunked Soundly yet?
Last year.
No, you said you were going to put out a video.
I said I might put out a video, but the problem is that Soundly took down all of his source files that he had made available up until at some point between last summer and now. So I don't know. He used to have it up on Google page, all of his original source material. But for some reason,
hiding the evidence.
Take all that stuff down. So it makes it much more difficult to do a proper analysis of his work.
Wonder why that is. Why would he have done that?
Don't know, but it makes it a lot more difficult to carefully analyze all of the details of the files and the imagery.
Hey, Arwen, what would you think if if my little experiment that I tried was actually correct and legit, and weights and masses were actually changing across the plane? What would you think about that?
I already told you.
But you actually invoked gravity. You said like the downward force was changing.
Yeah, it could be. Or something else would be causing that. Yeah, it all depends on just weighing things is not a definitive proof of a change or a fluctuation in the actual downward acceleration force. Could be another factor there, especially if you're going to use metallic objects in your measurements. But
the other thing is that
be magnetic.
People perform this test, they sometimes find that there's results that are inconsistent with the model, and then they explain it away as being the result of geological differences in the local geological differences. So whenever the test isn't consistent with the model, then they explain it away with local geological.
Well, I already basically explained that you could pin it down as the cause by doing these weight measurements in specific different locations around the world based on longitude. And if then the weight difference is consistent percentile wise, then there may be something to it. But then also it doesn't really prove the shape of the Earth. It just proves that there is some kind of fluctuation in weight for some reason.
Have you yourself ever thought of a test to try? Like there's so many people out here. There's billions of people on the planet, and like we must be able to like make a test. So what would be a test that would satisfy you?
You should be
Lots
able
of
to
measuring tests.
You should be able to demonstrate the Coriolis effect.
Right, and that's my second most important test in this. I'll tell you quickly. It's just I have 2 flat Earth snipers. I'm trying to get some more people who can shoot long range. But the idea is, once again, I know how retarded it sounds, but it's to make predictions beforehand on where the bullets would go, shooting in the 4 cardinal directions. And then from there, just like I said, collect enough data to
go for it. It should be very easy to figure out how what the path should be with the Coriolis effect and without it. We already suggested to do this. So if you're going to do it, no problem. Just go for it.
Amazing that this evidence doesn't already exist, isn't it?
What's your test though, Arwen? Like what's a flat earther's test? Because us globers, we can try it out for you. We would give it a go, but we need it from you first, because
we got Ranty and we got Riley, and they've been doing a lot of observations. So one test would be take a camera make a picture at 1 foot high over the ocean and see how far you can see.
Hang
Then
on,
figure out what objects you're actually seeing, and then see how much curvature there should be if you presuppose that we live on a ball.
Could I
Guess
make
what?
Don't Arwen, don't you
Minimal
think
observer height, long
that goes?
distance photography
I've got one. I'd like to
proves that
suggest.
it's very much.
But that goes either way, because
No,
we
it
can
doesn't.
claim refraction, and like
Yeah,
you
but
guys can claim
refraction
refraction.
can't
We
take
can claim
away the bulge.
curvature. It goes
Light
either
doesn't
way. It's
bend around the
non-conclusive.
curvature. See, and now you're just talking all over me. So
Could I
first you ask
I'm
me
just
for
trying
a
to
test,
say-
then I give
Josh.
you one, and you're talking all over me. So
Josh,
thanks
could
for
I
But
that.
make
it's
a suggestion?
non-conclusive test.
It is.
Josh, could I make a suggestion?
So why would we do a non-conclusive test? Let's
It
do
is
a
a conclusive test. It is a conclusive test. You see something because you have a direct line of sight. And long
Riley.
distance observation at minimal observer height prove that there is not a bulge in the way and light doesn't bend. There's a slight slant effect. There are optical effects, but light doesn't bend around the ball. So, very simple.
But we think it does bend around a ball, so that's
Yeah,
why
you
it's
know,
inconclusive.
You have no proof for
Because-
that at all.
You have no evidence of that whatsoever.
Right.
But you don't have evidence that it
Josh.
doesn't.
Josh, could I ask
No,
you?
we do. We do actually have evidence that it doesn't.
I have a
Lots of
test for that as well.
photographs.
Guys, can I have the mic a sec? Josh, do you have a P900?
Negative.
Do you live near the coast?
Yeah, Australia near the coast. Yeah. I guess yes.
Australia's not all by the coast.
Where the people live there.
Yeah. Well. Yeah. There's a big wasteland in the middle, but all the main towns are near the coast.
So you could get to the beach pretty easy, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, I'm going to make a suggestion, and you just tell me what you think about the suggestion. Grab yourself a high zoom camera, maybe a P900 or similar. Go to the beach, get yourself as low as possible to the water's edge. Don't get in the water, that would be silly, but get close to the water's edge. Zoom in on the horizon. Get the horizon when you zoomed in. Unorthodox.
Here's Unorthodox.
Hello.
Hello, good to have you.
Zoom in on the horizon. If we live on a sphere, the horizon would represent the bulge, correct?
But that's there's only a bulge if you're looking down.
Right.
And this is something that I actually have to take up with you guys taking your long distance photos. They should always be level. Right? Because then there's no bulge. Because then you're just looking like over like the Earth is curving away from everywhere.
All right.
There's only
So,
a
hang on.
bulge
Hold that
if
thought.
you're tilted
Josh.
down.
Hold that thought. Level your camera then. Level the camera, and you'll be looking just above the horizon by a fraction of a degree. Correct?
Yes.
At full zoom, if you then zoom back out, what do you think the horizon should do if you live on a sphere?
If I zoom back out.
Yeah. What do you think the horizon will do if we live on a sphere?
Well, zooming is still just taking all the light that's
Right,
coming
but
into the
answer the question.
camera, and
What do you think the horizon would do if we live on a sphere and you zoom out once you've leveled your camera?
well, it would do nothing. It would stay at the same spot where it is in your eyepiece.
On a sphere?
Surely it's
Yeah,
dropping
of
away,
course.
right, Josh? It's dropping
I
away
don't
from
think it
you.
would.
It's a sphere, right?
It would drop away.
Why would it?
Well, you've zoomed your camera right in on the level, and wouldn't that be, when you zoom it right the way in, wouldn't that be looking further into the distance? So you'd be looking effectively more, you would see more drop, would you not?
No,
I don't think so.
Let me think
because
about
Well,
the
there you
light.
go. Well, that's
the
the experiment
light-
he's suggesting. Sorry,
the
sorry,
only
Josh.
thing that's coming into the camera is the light that's in the environment.
Josh, he's not asking you for an answer.
Sorry,
He's
Nathan,
saying
I
it's-
couldn't hear you.
It's saying
Sorry.
it's a test you could perform. So what he's saying is go to the beach with a tripod, level your camera, so zoom in on the horizon, twist it 180 degrees to each side and see if it goes up or down, level it again, make sure it's 100% level, then start recording with your camera at full zoom on the horizon and zoom out. And we'll see what the effect is. There's your test.
Yeah.
But what I'm actually asking is I'm trying to find a conclusive test, because all the photos that are taken across the horizon, it's always going to be inconclusive, because the ballers are going to say curvature.
No, it's not.
You guys are going to say refraction.
Do you understand how perspective works? Objects get smaller as they go into the distance.
No, the angular size gets smaller. The objects stay the same size.
Okay, let me rephrase it for the level 1 person here. Objects appear to get smaller as they go further away. Yes?
Yes, of course.
Right, but if we live on a ball, they would appear to get smaller and drop behind a curve.
What do you mean? Look, I think the problem is, right, is because no one, I don't think
no
anyone...
problem here. That's a fact. If you're on a sphere and the item you're looking at is in the distance, number 1, it gets smaller because it's in the distance. Number 2, it falls over the curve because it's in the distance, if you presuppose you're on a ball. So, do you not accept that items would not only get smaller, as we absolutely observe, but also drop behind a curve at 30 miles, for example? Are you saying it wouldn't do both those things?
No, I'm saying that if something's over the curve of the horizon, it's over the curve of the horizon. But if it's not, then it's not.
Right, that's not the question he asked, so I'll ask it again. Try to listen. Items do get smaller. Appearance, yes. Don't jump down my throat. So they appear to get smaller at distance. You have conceded this. Yes, they do appear to get smaller at distance. And also disappear over a curved-shaped Earth if you are to presuppose we live on a sphere. So, both effects would be in place, would they, Josh? Yes or no?
Look, I don't know, Nathan. This is why I'm trying to...
Why? It's a very simple logic. We know that things get smaller into the distance. We know this. But if you're presupposing a curve, you're also saying, and have been up until now, that things would also fall behind the curve. So why is it when we link these two together you stutter and seem to say there's a problem?
I don't think I've stuttered once, Nathan. That's a weird thing for you to say. I'm trying to ask for something which is conclusive.
We're asking you something. We're saying we have two effects in play. You have already conceded that one, the most obvious perspective, we all observe it, is in play. Now we're asking you to also concede, as up until now every baller on the panel has always conceded, that things disappear behind the curve, if you presuppose an Earth that's curved. But now that you've conceded perspective, you don't want to concede that it would also have the effect of things dropping behind the curve. Is Earth not curved anymore for you, Josh?
Nathan, you can't play that, because perspective is the entire reason that you think the sunset works.
Sorry, we're not talking about the sun. We're talking about something in the distance. In this case, we're talking about the horizon and zooming out. We've gone past that for some reason. You asked us what test, but now we've decided to drop that. So fair enough.
I just want to...
You think the sun moves away from
you?
you,
We are onto the
right?
sun now, are we? We still haven't got an answer from you, Josh.
You realise that you
Josh,
can't have both.
We haven't got an answer. Do you accept that both perspective and curvature would take effect on a sphere Earth? Yes or no?
Yes.
Excellent. So we have the effect of both perspective and curvature. The problem being, Josh, that you're begging the question, proof of nothing fallacious calculator doesn't account for perspective. So every time anybody's gone to this calculator and asserted that it's 6 of one and half a dozen of the other, or it proves curve Earth because it says curve Earth on the calculator, it doesn't, because no perspective's ever been applied ever in any of these debates.
Nathan,
so,
do you
Josh,
really
if you could just
think
shut up and listen to the conclusion, you could go,
sure.
shh. Arwin already told you this. Go and do an observation of anything in the distance, but this time, don't just account for the curvature, also account for the perspective, and see if you're begging the question, proof of nothing, fallacious, perspective ignoring calculators were correct in the past when you said this proves a ball, Or, as we would assert, if you were to just go out and observe anything ever, that if you take into account perspective and curvature, the maths say it's all gone. And yet it isn't. You'll see it. Simple. There you go. That's your test.
Nathan, do you really think that,
That was
when
a
you
stutter.
look...
That was a very pronounced stutter I heard there, Josh. Like the other stutters I asserted you had.
Do you think that when
That
you
was
look
another
up...
stutter. How many more stutters we're going to have, Josh? Yeah? I still haven't got an answer, right? Yeah? Are you going to go and do this test? Just photograph anything ever. Because it's a sphere everywhere, Josh. Arwin's told you this. You haven't said yes. Thank you for your test. I'm too moronic to form my own.
But do you... If you're
Don't ask me a question. Just say thank you to Arwin for giving you a test where you couldn't think of one because you're too dim. Just thank him. Say thank you, Arwin.
You're actually doing what Rumpus does.
Yeah, they all do it.
I
love it. Absolutely beautiful. He's got a proper stutter on now. Love it.
Could I have 20 seconds?
You've had the whole show, dude.
20 seconds, please.
Go.
1.
Okay.
2.
So do you think that the height of a mountain, say Mount Everest, should have included in its height, it says, if you're 5 kilometers away from the mountain, it's only 6 kilometers. If you're right next to it, it's 11 kilometers. If you are 100 kilometers away from it, it's 1 kilometer. Is that what you think it should say on Wikipedia?
We have that adjustment. It's called angular size, right?
Correct.
No, angles and heights are completely different things, Riley.
Yeah, we know.
Right. So why is it being
freaking point,
used then? Because they use the
How
angle.
how do you think they measure the height of a mountain?
Actually, what you're doing there is denying that Mount Everest would get smaller as you get further away from it by saying that why don't they tell you this?
Of course it doesn't get smaller. That is the dumbest thing that you were
The
saying
angular
right
size
now.
gets smaller.
The
angular
height of a
size gets
mountain is
smaller.
The height of a
The
mountain.
angular size does get smaller, Josh.
It's impossible to talk to you guys.
No, it's not.
No.
Okay, so this is the point of my previous question.
Hang on.
A conclusive experiment?
Forget that.
Because obviously
I gave you
photos and
I
perspective
gave
doesn't
you
work.
Told you to
one
thank
and
Arwin.
you ignored it.
You haven't thanked Darwin yet, Josh. Thank him for the experiment that you didn't
Photos
understand.
don't work for you because you don't understand them.
Right,
what
Josh.
would be a conclusive
Josh.
experiment to try to figure out the shape of the
Not
Earth?
experiment. An experiment would be something scientific.
Being fed right now by Rumpus.
Yeah, just doing a rumpus.
Josh, yes or no? Are you being fed right now by Rumpus?
I don't even know what that means. Like what?
In the background telling you what to say.
I have about 4 experiments, which would address all this exact same thing y'all are talking about right now.
Please, could I get some rationality into this? Go, please, friend.
You're a moron, John.
One would be to test for the refraction that says things can be beyond the curve and still come up and be seen.
Making
So
the
one
question
test
fallacy, you've already got a curve in that equation. So if this is an experiment, first we need to know what the independent and dependent variable is. Well, not first, really. It'd be nice to know what the observed phenomenon is first, but we probably won't even get past that stage. So in your experiment, what is the observed phenomena?
So the observed phenomena for the for just to be sure that there would be refraction at all, you could test the moon, the sun on any given day, and take it in the sky and measure its movement throughout the day.
That's not going to work because you don't have any specific data on the size or actual distance of the sun.
Yeah, I have to keep explaining this in order to get through it. But
What's the phenomena?
It's not going to work.
What's the observed phenomena? What's happening here? What are we observing happening?
Before you can shoot it away.
No, you already pretty much gave it away.
No, I didn't.
You're going to base your refraction
I assure you, I'll give you $10 right now.
On heavenly bodies of which you have no proof that they are physical, and you have no proof of their distance.
Okay, so now if you just real quickly, let me get past this. It'll take 10
No, you're not going to get past this. You're going to have to give a better example on how to prove refraction. using things on Earth,
use the sun or
physical
the moon.
things that you can actually measure and prove their
Okay.
size and distance.
Well, I
Then
assure
you can
you,
work out refraction.
if you were to test the sun's movement across
Yeah,
the
well,
sky,
your assurances don't mean much.
I know,
Yeah.
because I can't even finish the
So
sentence.
drop
Just
it.
real quickly. Okay, at 15 degrees per hour across the sky. The only time this is not true is
God.
during dawn and
Can I
dusk.
just kick him already?
Well, I'd
Really
like
sick
I
of
mean,
this.
we're telling you the
I'd
truth.
like to ask the same questions to Jay. Do you agree that objects appear to get smaller in the distance the further away they get to you?
Whenever they're going away, the moon and the sun. That's another experiment that which you guys haven't let me get to. If you would
No,
test
it's not
the
an
sun and the moon,
experiment.
and you
Stop
would test the
calling
pictures,
things experiments, right? If you're going to say it's an
Mhm.
experiment, the first thing you need to tell us what the observed phenomena is. So can you do that for
Yeah.
this experiment?
the sun
What's the
and the
observed
moon,
phenomena?
and all you do is take pictures.
What's the
If
phenomena?
you took 3 pictures throughout the day, you would see if they got bigger, or if they got smaller, or if they stayed the same size.
If what got bigger or
And then that would
smaller
tell
or
you if
stayed
they
the
were
same
moving away.
size? The stars.
Move away from a rainbow. Does it get smaller?
Well, I just want off what he just said about objects moving away as they the size of them as they're moving away.
How do you even know they are at a distance? How do you even know they have a position? How can you you're presuming now that they are actually physically moving, that their distance is changing, and you're basing the angular size changes upon that assumption,
Yeah, I'm
for
assuming
which
that
you
they're
have
real.
no proof.
Do you
And
know
not
that a
figments of my
rainbow doesn't
imagination.
change size when you move away from it?
Right. So these are 2 tests that you barely let me get through, which would show you
They're
2
shit.
conclusive.
Let him get
They're
through
really
it,
not.
Alvin.
They
on,
would
let
show
him-
you
let him
one
They're
speak.
thing.
shit.
Just let him get
So
to the end
it's
of his
it would
sentence.
not be
Astronomy-based presuppositional nonsense experiments that don't prove anything.
the
They
presup-
don't
the-
prove refraction, because you can only prove refraction with actual provably physical objects on Earth, and then you can actually measure things out accurately.
right.
If you're going to presuppose things in your experiment, then it's going to be a
It's not presupposing
presuppositional thing.
anything.
You're not actually going to have definitive proof.
You're not presupposing anything.
Yeah,
You're
you are.
testing to
You're
see the movement.
presupposing that the heavenly bodies are physical and that they're moving away, and then you're basing your refraction conclusions upon that presupposition.
You're just judging their movement. That's all you're doing. You're just measuring their movement. And if you find that their movement is constant, you then use that at dawn and dusk to see if it's slower. And if you found it to be slower, you can then suggest that they are actually beyond the horizon.
Stop. Sorry to interrupt. That's your observed phenomena. So stars appear to slow down at the horizon. That's great. So you're on step 1 of the scientific method. You've observed the phenomena. That's wonderful. Next step, please.
Thank you. And so yeah, you would then use this to at least be able to allow it to enter into your mind that refraction may be a thing.
Oh, sorry, you're drawing a conclusion. That's not scientific at all. Step 2 after you observe phenomena is you formulate a hypothesis, which is a special kind of prediction. Yeah? It establishes the independent and the dependent variable in your future experiment that you might or might not perform to confirm whether or not the cause and effect is actually caused by your independent variable.
This is only for the people who don't believe in refraction. It's not for me. It's not even a science experiment. It would be for the person who doesn't
believe
understand
in
refraction.
refraction. You just have no proof of how much refraction actually happens.
That's right.
You can't base
He
any
might have.
proof
Arwen, he
on
might have though. So do
heavenly
you have
body
a
observations?
do you
How
have
do
a
you know it's not
hypothesis?
refraction causing
Do you have
that?
a hypothesis? Yes or no?
So here's what you would do with the pictures of the buildings or whatever else.
No.
You would take a
You've
30-day
observed the
period.
phenomena. Now we get on to the hypothesis stage. So
Yeah,
what's
I'm
your
talking about 2 different
independent and
studies,
dependent
totally 2 different
variable?
experiments.
What's your independent and dependent variable in your hypothesis? That's next
Yeah, I wouldn't
after the
focus on
phenomenon
that if
being
I were you,
observed.
because then you're just going to keep running over what I'm saying, and it's never going to get through. So just if you give me one moment.
Repeat back the
you just take-
question. Repeat the
you
question
would
I've
take
just
a
asked
picture
you.
of these buildings.
No,
okay? You
repeat
would
the
have to-
question back. Repeat back to me my question to you.
You asked me once again for the 50th time what are going to be the independent variables, and I'm telling you that
No,
this is
that
not
wasn't my
relevant
question,
to the
so you haven't
conversation
fully
because I'm
heard
talking
my
about
question.
the tests.
Yeah? Your repeating skills are poor because you literally haven't heard the question. I said, what's your hypothesis? A special kind of prediction that establishes... Before you talk all over me again, I'll start again. I asked for a hypothesis, something that establishes a cause and effect, and that would be an independent and a dependent variable. I first want your independent variable from your hypothesis. Once I have that... you're still talking over me. I haven't finished. You didn't understand the first time, so I'm expanding for you because you didn't understand. You couldn't repeat it back. So now I'm expanding so you understand. Stop talking. Right? So, once I have your independent...
I'm out of here, guys. I had fun.
Yeah,
I'm going to hang out with
Good. It's all right. As soon as we get to actually formulating a scientific hypothesis, he doesn't want to know. He wants to go. Because I'll take him through science, actual science, and he can't do it. All he can do is make an observation and form a conclusion. Please, Nathan.
Example.
Why are you asking me? You're doing it again. He's come on and asserted he's got an experiment, which I've ripped apart based on its adherence to the scientific method. It has no adherence to the scientific method. That's the point. Now you're asking me for an experiment. Why?
Just one, Nathan. Just one. Just an example of an experiment.
Why?
An example of an experiment.
Why? Hold on. Why give him an example? You are asserting, or he was asserting, he had an experiment. Then I took my steps to show and expose that it wasn't science. Now you're saying, well, you show me your science. No, I don't have to show you anything.
He is actually right. Nathan is right.
I reckon Nathan's always right.
Thanks. I agree.
You wouldn't accept my experiment, Nathan.
What was your experiment?
Gave you the independent variable and the whole setup.
Oh, really? So, take us through it again.
So why would he?
Take us through it again.
Hey Nathan.
Bring it on.
Hey Nathan. I love your work, mate. Can you present a scientific evidence for the ball earth, please?
Definitely. Let's hear it.
Yeah, now on Big Think, right? On Big Think, the YouTube channel, I went on it, and this bimbo, I mean, very intelligent lady, sorry, was talking about people essentially, well, this astronaut going to the going to the ISS, and she said that this astronaut actually said that the Earth is a sphere from space. So I don't know if you take on word of mouth as evidence, but I think the flat Earth is dead because of that. What do you reckon, Nathan?
Anecdotal evidence is strong evidence for you.
not one bit, but no, it's funny because I was watching.
There you go. That's your answer.
The question you have to ask after that is: Do you believe her? Do you?
Like,
you've asked your question and you still want to keep talking? Do you? Do you believe her?
No, but I was being.
You don't believe her? You think the Earth's flat?
No, of course it's flat. I was being sarcastic because this bimbo was trying to cite evidence, as in this astronaut told her that they went to space and the Earth's curved. So it's as if it's some kind of argument. It's as if it's some kind of scientific argument. The Earth is round.
The woman was basically suggesting that the astronaut was an embodiment of science.
Right.
He is science. He is the science. Everything he says is automatically science.
Exactly. But if he was...
And with that, I'm going to say first and foremost, a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of the debating panel for joining and making this debate possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of the live audience for tuning in and hopefully for sharing this debate. If you hated the show, then you know exactly what to do. But if you liked it, maybe consider sharing it or subscribing if you have not done so already. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!